Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eizu Uwaoma. It's a privilege doing this. Thank you, sir.
Now I have to pretend like I'm as big as you're making it sound. Good evening, everyone. It's actually evening already. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. I'm not used to looping myself back and forth, but I said some amazing things a few hours ago, but I just realized that the model is new people every few hours ago, right? So I might have to sound like a recorder, right? So that you don't miss out on some of the things. Was anybody here in the initial room? Okay, just a few people. Okay, so please, if I miss out any points, just know that I'm not used to this. Naturally, like I said the first time, if you're a writer, you write the kind of books you love to read. Am I right? Yes. If you're a singer, you sing the kind of song you love to listen to. So I'm very spontaneous, so I don't like to just like to do a spirit lead. So the first time I was talking about the power of audacity, right? Now I want to talk about something else, really. But just so we know why that audacity was important, was we're talking about the OS and saying no matter how good the software is, you have to have an OS that runs it. So the most important part of the conversation was earlier, but I can't go back to it because I was hoping that it was the same guy. So I wanted to pave the way to say, look, before you learn all the technical stuff, you need to learn the basic stuff, right? So I can't go back to that basic stuff. Of course, the reason why I said that was because when people introduced me with all of those technicalities, and we built some reasonable amount of businesses, in all honesty, GTEx is 6 years old, right? It'd be safe in all humility to say that I've been there since 6 years as a management consultant. In real estate, we've probably done a lot of brands. Pennec, right? You know, and these are very strong brands. Now, the funny thing about it is, one thing that I think is really important is if you must build a great organization, and I spent 10 years doing that in two ways. First, building a great organization for myself, and then as a consultant, because it's so important that business is like riding a bicycle. No matter how much you have read how to ride a bicycle, if you don't own a bicycle and you've not climbed on a bicycle, it will just be theory. It's like swimming. You cannot Google how to swim or watch YouTube video on how to swim and come to conclusion that you have learned to swim. If you do that and they take you to a lebushi, right, and tell you to swim, you just realize how much you don't know how to swim. So even though I like to say I'm a business consultant, you know, I like to talk about more of me even running a business starting a business at a very young age. I left school around 22, 23. I started business at 21, and which brings us to the conversation of today about consistency. So if I tell you I spent over 10 years, you know, you can do the math to calculate how old I am. But the thing about it is, and we live life this way. We think that we're going to do a little bit of everything. We just want to do a little bit of everything. Matter of fact, I had that conversation with a few people just outside after the session. Also, what do you do? You know, in a real estate seminar, you came as a realtor, you're selling me another thing. Right there. You're selling me insurance. Right there. We have probably finished talking insurance. You're selling me Canada. You know? Now, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you do with people that really have the income, right? One thing I've learned, just hanging around people that have made it big, is they all seem to act like they come from the same family tree. There's something they're all genetically wired. Matter of fact, how you know you're making it is when you start to sound that way. You know, when you start to behave that way. First of all, they don't like people that are inconsistent. Yes. I'm sure you've noticed. Yes. Right? Matter of fact, even in my own small circle, I do that a lot. If you come to me and ask me for money, I'll tell you to come tomorrow, even if the money is in my pocket. I just want to see whether you can consistently come the next day. If you come the next day, you really need that money. Else, I'm just your giveaway on Twitter. You know, there are people that when they tweet, people DM them and say, okay, I have problem. You don't really have problem. If it's because you saw me. You know that thing you do when you're entering a hotel and you say anything for the boys? That's how I put you in that category, that you're just an opportunist. You saw me, you think I'm comfortable enough. Now, what am I driving at? It's consistency. So the first conversation was about audacity, and I explained why we have an exclamation mark and Xavier. Now, let's talk about consistency, because after you're audacious, right, you now have to build up on that audaciousness by being consistent. I'll tell a few stories. I'm a storyteller, so I like to tell stories. I told a story about Tony Elumelu from a friend's hand information. I grew up around that circle. I know him, I know his mentors and all that. So I'll talk about consistency. A few months ago, I read something that was important and very interesting. It was Warren Buffett's birthday. Does anybody know Warren Buffett here? If you know Warren Buffett here. For a few years, he was the richest man in the world. Then he fell to number 2, and then Bill Gates became number 1. Ever since him and Bill Gates got to number 1 and number 2, they have over 20 years, till 5 years ago, where the table shook and Amazon came and Jeff Bezos right now is the richest man. Elon Musk took that crown for a few weeks, right? And when stock rose, Amazon is back to being the richest man. But for 20 years, and it was just something I read I thought was important and very interesting, and maybe somebody will pick up from it. It was Warren Buffett's birthday, right? Now this is number 1 guy and number 2. They've been number 1 and number 2 for almost 20 years. You know how that powerful is? There's 7 billion people on Earth. 107 billion people since humankind came into existence. 107 people have lived this world. That means 107 billion people have lived. There are currently 7 billion people alive. So over 100 billion people have come and go, right? Out of 7 billion, for you to be the richest man out of 7 billion, you must be doing some things right. Am I right? And not just do it as a fluke. You see, Baba Ijebu cannot help you blow that way, right? All Grego, Kanayo, the herbalist that you use in those Nigerian movies cannot help you. There's something you have learned, and you've learned it steadily. Like I like to say, anybody can fall off a ladder by accident. Nobody climbs a ladder by accident. Those kind of hammer is not by accident. In matter of fact, this kind of hammer is deep. It's family tree. And people don't understand that Bill Gates didn't just fall out to become the richest man. Bill Gates happened to be one of the first people on Earth. Perhaps history has that, probably the first 100 people on Earth. First 100 people on Earth to own a computer. So he had advantage. It's like a few years ago when I was still in school, you know, I dated this lady who was a pilot, and she told me a story that was really important. You know, I just wondered, you know, I never even realized it. A few months into the relationship, I said, wait a second, what school did you go to? Like, what school did you go to? Because you're young, you know, she was 21, 22. You know, so I expected 22. He said, I just graduated, you're still in school. Now, what am I driving at? It does matter when you start. You are almost already late by starting now, but you're not that late because there are people that will start tomorrow. And you already have an advantage when you started. It does matter when you start. It's called the principle of the 10,000 hours. If you must be good at something, you must start and spend 10,000 hours on it. And that's why pilots, they calculate and promote them by number of hours flown. They call it flight time. That's really what flight time means. So Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. So Bill Gates starts the story of Warren Buffett by saying how they grew up. And I said, oh, once again, it does matter when you start. Bill Gates as a teenager, right, was among the first people on Earth to have a computer, first 100. Does that have an advantage for him using computers and eventually creating a PC company, personal computer company called Microsoft? It does matter. Because he had more advantage. In fact, let me even shock us more. His parents moved homes, and when his parents moved home, they moved homes to a place that was next door to Washington University. And then I look up Washington University, and first thing that hit me was Washington University happened to be one of the first universities on Earth to have a course called computer science. Another coincidence, right? It does matter when you start. It's like me saying I live in Akoka. My next door neighbor is Unilag, and there's a course only Unilag studies in the world. And I take interest in that course. It does matter when I start. So as a student who was in Washington University, he would scale fence to go and play with computers. So he had his 10,000 hours way before anybody knew what a PC was. He already didn't only know what a PC was. He had used it, he had mastered it. He probably knew a lot about computers more than even the lecturers. Because the lecturers that did computer science started at a young age as he did. So when people say Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard after 1 year, and Nigerians like to give the example, school na scam, no problem. School na scam because Bill Gates dropped out. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook dropout. Did they tell you that they dropped out for Uniben? Or no, don't talk about that guy. But what I'm saying in essence is a dropout from Harvard first year is equivalent to a prof in Uniben. So, I don't know, I'm yapping Uniben like this. Right, last time I was yapping Dr. Stephen because he was here, but I can't do that because he's not here before they report me and I'll be fired. But we get the point, right? It does matter when you start because of the concept of consistency. You cannot be consistently inconsistent with where you consistently want to be. I repeat that. You can't be consistently inconsistent with where you consistently want to be. So the first thing you do is define where you want to be early enough. So do you want to be a realtor? If you don't want to be a realtor, why are you here? Because the way the universe works, the universe doesn't like people that are inconsistent. The same way, even the people who have made money off understanding how the universe works, when you understand how the universe works, success starts to happen. Because success is built on principles. And once the day you stumble on principles, how we know is the results. Look, if this door is not locked right now. It's not locked, right? But it opens inward. If I stay on this door and I keep pushing it, you know I'll think it's locked. Because it opens inwards. That's how the universe works. When you know it, you pull it back, it will open. You know it's not hard to open. So the day we all crack the code of how to make it, you will know that, in fact, you know that there is more energy in there to make your 100K than for Dangote to make 1 billion. That's how you know that it's not by hustle. Am I talking to somebody here? So, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates story, central ideology of this commission, just storytelling. So, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates starts to talk about how they grew up. So, I'm learning like, oh, okay. So, I see why Bill Gates has advantage over all of us. Because I didn't use computers till I was almost in uni. And then they came and taught us Fortran and Basic and COBOL. Something that they stopped using 20 years ago is what they taught me in computer science in uni. Right? So, I already have a disadvantage. Right? So, how does it connect to us all? Is you have started now, put energy in it, because the energy that it took for is one thing for you to say there's an opportunity next to you and not take it, because don't forget that I'm sure Bill Gates wasn't the only person that was living in the neighborhood that was close to it. The same way, you're not the only one that saw the advert that there's a training today and you came. Other people saw the advert. So other people saw the opportunity and left. Right? What's the marker? Can I get a marker? Okay. Somebody said, what is poor? How do people become poor? And then I just put this here. Bam. For people who've never heard it before, passing over opportunity repeatedly. Poor. And when you don't understand this, you roam around. Matter of fact, you'll be more hardworking than others. You'll be poor and be hardworking. Matter of fact, I think the most hardworking people on earth are poor people. I think in mathematics, when they taught us, my first degree is mathematics, so we do f of x, dy dx, y is a function of f of x. One of the things I realized is that y is a function of f of x, right? Y is a function of f of x. But what they don't tell us is that y and f of x, if this is poverty and this is struggle, right? I will say that, matter of fact, if this is wealth and this is struggle, I will say that struggle is inversely proportional to wealth. Now, plenty maths. Struggle is inversely proportional to wealth. What it means in simple terms is the harder you struggle, the lower your wealth. Matter of fact, sweat is inversely proportional to wealth. If you're doing anything that takes out physical sweat from you, you're farther away from wealth. Wealth is inversely proportional to wealth. Sweat is inversely proportional to wealth. Now, because when you don't understand it, you put more energy, thinking it's by energy. The same way this door is not locked, but it's opens inwards, and I'm trying to push it. It opens inwards, I'm trying to push it instead of pull it. You know what I'll do next? I'll put more pressure to push it. That's what happens. You put more pressure, thinking that the more pressure digs you deeper into. In fact, there's where I'll push it, I'll spoil the door. The same thing, and let's see how it is. So poor, then you now get very busy because you haven't figured it out. And busy too has dots. Being under Satan's yoke. The devil just use you to the play ball. You've entered the devil's territory. He will keep you busy for the rest of your life. Matter of fact, I feel like that story of the Bible about Job, and that story is deep. The story sounded like God and devil was having a conversation on top of Job's head. So I still think about it, that's a very distracting question. That doesn't mean that God and devil under special arrangements, then they meet. Then they meet, forget. But that question was, there was a negotiation, as a matter of fact. Negotiation ended up saying, do whatever I want to do with him, but don't touch his soul. If the world doesn't change that much, I feel like that conversation still happens in certain lives, where God and devil is dragging on top of your matter. And God also tells them, do anything you want to do with this guy. Don't touch his soul. Maybe your destiny is basically to be very successful. Devil says, I want to kill this guy. God says, no, you can't kill this guy. But do whatever I want to do. Right? But don't touch his soul. Devil says, And I think devil can, probably, we don't give the guy the credit he actually deserves. So it's okay, what do I do? He puts you here. He keeps you busy for the rest of your life. You just be there. Every day you work hard. And you see the Lord go to BRT bus lane by 5 o'clock in Oshodi. You see people that wake up by 4:30 to be there by 5 o'clock. When you engage them, guess what you realize? They've been doing it for the past 15 years. You know that they are hardworking. For you to wake up by 4:30 and be at the bus park every 5, and we don't want to live life that way. There has to be a shortcut. And that shortcut, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to sell you real estate. I have done business for almost all the sectors. We're currently doing a project for a commodity trading company. It's $20 million in partnership with Akwa Ibom State Government. I've done around retail, right? Rough and tumble, slots, iFitness. These are brands that we can say, look, we created a lot of these concepts and ideas, and we did the business plan and all of this. I can tell you that in all of the industries I've worked with literally there's no industry, oil and gas, manufacturing, agriculture, retail. I sit on a lot of boards. I'm on the mentor on the Television Foundation. I can tell you that the industry that is easy work in the park is real estate. And it has the highest potential. It's what we call low effort, high profits. All you need is have network, manage your network, service your network, show them character, show them value, sit back. Once you break that sound barrier, it's like what happens when a plane takes off? A plane takes off and it struggles to take off. Once it takes off, pilot goes on autopilot and sleeps off. You don't know this. Most times you fly, your pilot is sleeping. True story. Yes, most of the time pilots sleep off. Matter you can Google it. Especially on a long 13-hour, 6-hour flight, pilot don't sleep. Sometimes co-pilot too don't sleep. And it's normal. That's when you know you've gotten it right. That's what I'm saying. You've cracked the code, you know the process. You are in an industry that is high profit. Yeah, there's something we used to draw in business school that year, where we call it the BCG matrix, right? Where we measure things by market growth over market share. And we'll put 4 different categories. So this is 0, this is 10, this is 0, this is 10, right? This is, let me say this is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D. So what would A mean? A would mean low market growth, right? Low market share. Does everybody get it? Yes. B would be what? Low market share, high market growth. It's quite complex. D will be what? Can you tell me what D would be? This is market share. This is market growth. What would D be? Can you tell me? What? High market share, low market growth. There are actually terms for it. I'm sure we heard the term cash cow before. When you say, something is a cash cow, what cash cow literally means is low grade, high market share, which is D. This is what you call a cash cow. And it's not even the best place to be in. Because see, if you're a business that is in low market growth, high market share, means that you cash out quickly, but doesn't have any prospects. Because the market is not growing. I'll give a good example. Let me use Dangote Group and show you, because Dangote has so many products. You see some are high market share, low market share. I'll give an example. You see Dangote Cement. You know it's the most profitable part of his business. Yes. You know why? Because it's high market growth, high market share. Is there a large market share for it? In terms of as against competitors, he's the biggest in the competition. Then the industry is not shrinking. Matter of fact, Nigerians have not started building house. If you think about it, if you go to Dubai, you know Nigeria is just a land walk. The tallest building in Nigeria is 36 stories, 36. In Dubai, they have buildings that are almost 200 stories. We never started to build house.
Because they don't have space.
But, well, because they don't have space, guess what? Lagos does not have space. We don't know that. Let me tell us what the data shows us. 36 states in Nigeria, Lagos is the smallest. We don't get space. There are states that, if you go to the north, there are states that you're doing 7 hours on the same states. So don't let Ibejuleki make it look like Lagos has land. We don't get land for Lagos. We don't have space. So what I'm saying is, whatever problem Dubai has, Lagos has it. Matter of fact, if you go to Dubai, Dubai has more space than we say they don't have space. If you go to Dubai, you still see expanse of land, but they're already too futuristic to know that even that thing we call space no reach. That's why they're doing 100 floors. You cannot go to Dubai and collect land and say want to do 3-story building. Nobody will give you permit. What are you doing 3-story building for? Do you think we're building bungalow here? Right now, what am I driving at? You are in an industry, unlike refinery. It's still in Dangote business. Dangote refinery is here. It's high market share, people need it, but low market growth. There's no growth opportunity for oil and gas in the world. It's shrinking. It's not, look, you're not going to wake up all of a sudden and all of a sudden petrol, oil, crude oil per barrel will become $120, but it will never happen again in this lifetime. It's not growing. It's not industry that is growing. Matter of fact, what they are banking on is that Tesla would take over the whole of Western world, and then they will ship all of the cars as chaff. You know, Nigerians like to collect what has been rejected, right? So that's what we're banking on, and it's going to happen. Cars will be ridiculously cheap in the next 2-3 years because those cars are being banned abroad. They'll push it here. But what we don't realize, even for them with this projection, is that whatever affects that country, they will not allow it here because last, at the same air everybody they breathe. You see, when they banned CFC, it happened. Chlorofluorocarbon, what they used to use for refrigerants and refrigerators, free became cheap. After a while, they also banned it in Nigeria because it doesn't make sense to ban it there and leave it here. It's like this thing that I'm robber. You now bring security your own and leave the security outside. When the robber comes to the one that security, it's your house you will jump into. Right, so what am I driving at? Real estate is actually here, not here. What does it mean? High market share, high market growth. You're sitting on a gold mine. If you take it serious, it is too deep for it to be side hustle. How do you make main chick, side chick, make side chick, main chick? You don't have sense. Like who carries Beyonce as side chick? Carries Beyonce as side chick. Right, but we get it, right? Like how? How do you mistake alligator with crocodile? That thing you're calling main business. You know rich real estate. So why are you calling main business? If you take it serious enough, and how we know you take it serious enough, and the earlier you take it serious enough, the better for you because of the 10,000 hour rule that says you must put 10,000 hours consistently to be big at it. So the earlier you take it serious, because the guys are cashing in now, cashed in now, not just because they were smarter than you, they just started earlier than you. Am I making sense? So the Bill Gates story and the Warren Buffett story starts again with Bill Gates and how they met, and explain how they met and how they got close. Matter of fact, what shocked me was they are best friends, BFF. But they were not just best friends in the last 2 years, they've been best friends for the past 30 years. So you see how people rub off on people. They were best friends before they ever made the Forbes list. So I do back-end work for GTEx. Been the business consultant for years, right? We do all of the business model, the concept, the ideas. The idea of us saying, oh, wait a second, we need to have our own independent sales agent, which is today GCP. Let's be humble and not take credit for it, but we get it, right? So my work is the structure, so I'm not supposed to speak. I just sometimes do because I think it just comes natural. Because once again, speaking is this thing, high market share, low market growth. See, I cannot speak my way, into Banana Island, right? Because I don't know if I'm making sense. Let's be realistic, right? But here's the point. So he talks about Warren Buffett's being friends for 30 years. Second lesson to learn. One story, all the lessons are packed in that one story. First story showed you when you start. It doesn't matter when you start. If you started late, it's not too late, right? The best time to plant a tree, they say, is 7 years ago. But the next best time is what? Now. Same principle. Second principle is who you hang around with tells where you're going to. So they were not two rich people in the Forbes list when they became friends. They were friends, and that friendship took them to the Forbes list. You see the difference? If they probably weren't very good friends, they would not have gotten to the Forbes list. Maybe because of the theory I just said, the theory of good envy. Good envy. I think someone should learn this good envy thing, but it's a very staggering thing. So you don't do well doing good envy, enter bad envy, and herbalist end down. Right. Now, so here's the thing. Who you are hanging around tells you where you're going to. Typical aspire to perspire, you've heard it so many times. You are a product of the 5 people that is closest to you. See, the 5 closest to you, write them down. You'll find out that all of you, your account balance is almost on the same level. And that's how you know you need to change that friend circle. Because of also a theory of good envy. I'm hanging around people who, matter of fact, it's so funny. I wish Dr. Stephen was here to answer the question. I was inviting Dr. Stephen to this event. I'm like, so we're trying to hang out, you know. I'm like, Dr. Stephen, we need to hang out. Well, I really don't like to go out that much anymore. I just think that it's too noisy. You know, so we'd like to do a lot of house parties now. So we do house parties. I'm like, so we have this house party. Dr. Stephen, I think you should come to. Dr. Stephen, like, where? I'm like, Banana Island. I just have a few, these are young boys about my age who are doing pretty well. Legitimate business, so legit. You know, and you know, one of them paid down payment $1.5 million for his house. Not married yet. That's over 500 million there. Down payment. No spread. How many percent have you spread in 24 months? I know they spread anything. You know, but matter of fact, it's so funny because finished doing the house, I'm like, man, if I had a wife, if I had a wife, my wife does the interior. I said, I can never get a wife, I won't take job. Or there is a babe that does interior, let's invite her. It was how I knew was when the deal finished. The guy said, sorry, I just want to say thank you. Remember that client that you have, because we just introduced people and we're out. That client that you introduced me like 4 months ago, like, yeah, I know him, I know him. So did that deal pull through? He said, yeah, the deal pulled through. I did the interior for the house. I don't know now, bros. Just send me account number. I'm like, okay, no wala, right? But when she sent the money, I had to call her back. I'm like, wait, how much did they pay you for this one to be pure water money? As in, that money I can use to buy GTEx land, I'm telling you. So that's why I realized that, wait a second. No, but what am I driving at? So I'm having conversation with them, I'm having conversation, like, oh yeah, so that house, let's hang out there one of these days, because, I mean, like the house is, because not married, Friday night, you know, we just buy red wine, we chill there, you know, and so, I'm having conversation with Stephen, and oh yeah, next thing, 1 week ago, I said like, Eizu, I'm moving to Banana Island. I'm like, try, good envy. Do we get it, right? And that's the kind of friends you want to have. Because now me too, I say, I cannot carry last too. Me too, I need to. And that's how growth happens. That's how growth happens. So what am I saying? The quality of your network generates the energy for your next position. So, who are you hanging around? You want to make this thing full-time, but the people who are hanging around you are making it part-time. You always almost act like you're part-time. Because the Bill Gates and Warren Buffett story retraced the same point again. Because Bill Gates was saying that he met Warren Buffett over 30 years ago. Matter of fact, 30 years ago, Bill Gates' mom had told Bill Gates that he's sure they were going to be very successful. But that one thing she wants to do before she dies is to make a list of other people she also thinks, that's not these words, she also thinks will be successful in the future. So she made a list of all of them. So Bill Gates like, okay, my mom can be very funny like that. Oh yeah, Mom, why are you making a list of people who you think will be successful? Because I want to invite all of them to dinner and cook for them before they blow. True story. So Bill Gates like, oh, okay, no problem. You know, my mom, apples don't fall too far from tree. Remember the woman that has bought laptop for the boy, computer for the boy before people that are probably laptops. There are probably laptops. You can tell she's futuristic. You can't feature in the future, you can't picture. You can't feature in the future, you can't picture. So they're like, yeah, my mom can be crazy like that. So my mom invites this large amount of people who she made a list for a long dinner table. So I'm also picturing them to go to a small bar to play that kind of play. You could not chop their food to invite party for people to come. But in that party, there were a bunch of 20 and 30-year-old, which that was his age around then, who came to the dinner table. His mother had walked up to him and said, you see all these guys here, nobody knows them. I can bet my life that in 20, 30 years will be the ones running America. 30 years later, So in that room, matter of fact, in that room, there were strange people in that room. The likes of Richard Branson, who today is the richest billionaire in the whole of Britain, the whole Britain Empire, is the richest British alive. Richard Branson, he owns Virgin Atlantic, right? It's big, Virgin Cola, Virgin Records, Virgin, you know. And then in that room, there was also Bill Gates, whose mother was hosting the party. And then there was also Warren Buffett. That was the first time they met. And then, so all these young boys are chilling and eating, and they're all quiet. You know how people like to form, especially when you know that you are going to blow, even though you don't know how you're going to blow. I hope somebody here is in that place. Because if you're in that place where you know you're going to blow, and you don't know how you're going to blow, you walk differently. You talk differently. Nothing phases you. It's confidence. And I said last time that I think Nigerians have to sort out themselves. Nigerians feel too grateful. And there are two sets of Nigerians, people that feel too grateful and people that feel too timid. And the two no good. The people that are too timid, that's why we can't ask for change. We're just timid. This is why you see, and this is my problem with this morning I had that conversation with Howard said, can I carry your bag? I don't like people carrying my bag. I don't think people should carry anybody's bag. You see, is this carrying bag that 30-year-old are carrying for 70-year-olds in body loan that is making people not ask for their change? Because when you get a chance, when you have carried bag, you lose the ability to confront. Okay, look people face in the face. Right? Now, but what am I driving at is, and then now the second set of people who are so grateful. You know, there's a way you can be grateful to be in this room that you cannot ask questions. So that you don't ask one question, they walk you out. You're just grateful. You just want to maintain where you are. And a lot of people are like that. People who think that the greatest thing to achieve in life is to be alive. You're just grateful to be alive. All this story about blowing and making 1 billion is like, I just want to be alive. You know, you see them every time, and then they fool Shiloh die. Like, you know, those guys are, God. And there's nothing wrong with being grateful to be alive. But that's not the greatest. I don't think God created you to be alive. Just to be alive. I don't think He created just to be alive. I think it's an insult to God that in all of the creation, the only thing that you can do with yourself is to be alive. Right, and I explained that maths the last time. It's too technical. I like to draw maths. I like to draw curves. I like to draw graphs. That's why I said if you're a writer, you write the kind of books you love to read, right? I'm a mathematician, so I like to draw graph. I explained this to take another time to explain about this thing about potential energy and maximum attenuation energy, maximum potential energy. But let's still finish the Warren Buffett story so we can let us go. Because that story, I'm sure, once you remember stories are the best way to explain a concept. So these guys are chilling, you know, eating, because they are sure they're going to make it, which changes how you act. Nobody was faced with anybody. They were just eating like, you know, like if you're the billionaire, you enter a room full of billionaires. You don't wake up like, oh my God, you're a billionaire, you too. You're a billionaire, it's calm. Right? So they had that calm. So Bill Gates' mom walked into the room after she had served the food, walked out, walked back, and they were all eating and were talking to themselves, and they were age mates. Because the woman said, I don't know good. She literally stood up and said, hey, all of you, drop your food. Do you guys understand why I brought you here? Now, this is Bill Gates writing to Warren Buffett on Warren Buffett's story. I said, this is how we met, if you remember. But this is the key thing in the story. So the mom says, I didn't just want to call all of you to eat. All of you can afford food in your house. I called all of you here so that you can engage and interact and be friends so that in the future you don't become enemies. Because you're going to make it. Well, so I'm like, okay, interesting. And she says, oh, so you guys still don't want to talk? Well, let's play a game. Yeah, okay, let's play a game. And then she said, okay, all of you, bring out your pen, bring out your pad. You know, she brought out a piece of paper and shared all of them. I said, okay, all of you have made it so far. You're okay, but you're going to be making it very big. Can you summarize how you made it here by being one of the most promising people and how you make it to the future? Can you summarize that whole journey in one word? All of you write it down in one word. That's the game we're going to play. Cover it, right? And we're all going to submit it. It's just a game. And at the end of the day, we want to find out which word is the most consistent. There are about 30 people in that room. Everybody write down, don't let the next person see. None of what I'm saying is, are you successful? He says yes. Mention all your journey to success. Mention it in one word. So if you trust Nigerians, I'm sure if you ask Nigerians, all of them will say grace. and that's my problem because when you say grace, and there's nothing wrong with grace, you help people lose the opportunity to know how you made it. Which one is grace now? Madam, how did you blow? It's grace. Okay, so what should I do now? Grace. Okay. And Dr. Stephen said this the last time, it's because most rich people in Nigeria really can't tell their story, pure. Which one is grace? Which one is grace? If it's grace, I'm robber that robbed and stole and it's grace. Let's be graciously grateful. Why? Okay, tell us that they're telling us grace. Which one is grace? But thank God they're in Nigeria in the room. So just write down your word in one word. And maybe God is telling us something, that when you make it, you owe people an obligation to explain how you made it. You cannot be saying grace after today, when you blow and drive Range Rover is too old, a Rolls Royce, right? And they say, please, can you tell us how you made it? Please, tell them that, I put in 10,000 hours. That's tangible. So they know that, it's not easy work. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Tell them the specific. If you ask me how I made it, I can tell you practically that, look, it does matter how you grew up. I owe where I am today to my father. And it's not because they left me with daddy's money or my papa no get money. But there's something I noticed my dad did. I didn't even realize it. It was yesterday I was telling somebody. I said, somebody was trying to analyze something. Oh, some lady we're going to hire for GTEX. Like he said, it was hiring GTEX. I do actually top level hire. So we're going to hire this lady, and just funny story. And so she said she worked in a place for 3 years. So she sounded like 3 years, a very long time. So I now laughed and I said, generational dynamics. And I asked her if she knows theory X, theory Y, and she knew the generation X, Y, Z, millennials, centennials, digital natives, and stuff. So she didn't quite. So I was now schooling how generations are different. People born in 60s, how they behave. People born in 70s. We all behave when we were born. See, there are people that have entitlement mentality because of the period where they're born. The same way, if you're born in after 1990, you are most likely smart. Because that generation had a huge explosion of knowledge. That's when the fourth revolution started, when IT was born. They are the ones that use phones without manual. We, that born in the 80s, we read manual to learn how to use Nokia 3310. Matter of fact, 3310 came with manual. Have you noticed that new phones don't come with manual anymore? Back then, phones, they carry big booklets, bigger than the phone itself. So we learned the hard way. This is impossible. I have a 2-year-old son. It's something I can't fathom. There's no physical, logical explanation to how my 2-year-old son that is still learning to say dada. If you drop the phone, my son is watching cartoon on the phone. Like, I can't understand how you know how to open my phone. And then more importantly, go to YouTube. How do you know YouTube? You don't know A, B, C. How do you know YouTube sign? I know that when you go that you can watch Baby Shark, and he's looking at you like, I'm looking at him, I'm sure like, oh my God, he knows I'm a wizard. He knows I'm a wizard, but he doesn't want to say, like, you know how they catch somebody on, like, tell me where you're from. Are you my great-grandfather that reincarnated? That's how I'm thinking in my head. But that's generation. It's called, that's a digital native. It's a centennial, it's a digital native. We are not digital natives, we are digital immigrants. We migrated. They are the one hosting us. We are immigrants. We are literally illegal digital immigrants. Am I communicating here? Now, how am I driving with this conversation? The funny stuff about this whole story is that we all behave based on where we come from, and one great asset, it took me a while to realize that why I am here, standing here, right, in my sleep, wake me by 5 a.m., I'll still sound this way. I'm quite audacious, right? Stage fright is not something I understand. When people say, you cannot talk on stage, right? It's because of how I grew up. And I didn't realize how I grew up so when I was talking to the HR lady, and I was telling her about, 2 years and 3 years seems like a long time. And I laughed. I said, well, because of you are a millennial, that's why you think 2-3 years is a long time working in a company. Now, my father worked in the same company for 27 years. I'm sure most of us can relate. Some of us fathers work from the day they left uni to when they graduate. Japanese are still like that. So there's a difference. You see how generations, nobody right now in Nigerian business is going to work for 10 years, 20 years. Even Shell, even the people working in Shell will not work 20. Shell will 1.5 million a month. They still will live for 20 years. So you have generations that are different. So how did where I grew up matter? My father, I'll tell you that my father worked for 27 years. I didn't realize why he worked for 27 years in a place. till now, that he worked in a place 27 years because there was an amenity he was enjoying in that place that was so important to him, to how his children would turn out. He didn't want to leave the job so he doesn't lose the amenity. And it was the fact that when he was working hard in residency in Ikoyi, and he wanted us to grow up in Ikoyi. And today, if I go out here and you tell me that this guy out there, anybody I meet outside is a billionaire, if I talk to that guy for 3 minutes, I know somebody he knows. Because of where I grew up. Look, I grew up as a kid with third parties, and we'll get people. This is secondary school party, we'll get people. And the people that we'll get will go to their car and go and call their mopone. Children party. That's how, and matter of fact, that story is an interesting story because where I had this conversation, I stumbled upon someone at Bakers a few days ago, and I told the story. And the guy was like, I'll tell the story about how I knew this guy from when we were kids and we used to throw parties. So the guy was telling me, like, the third guy that was talking what I was saying. Like, but that's not the point. The guy you were talking to, I said, I just told you that I knew the guy. I said, no, you don't tell me who the guy is. I said, why? He said, because somebody just told me now that he's Sheyi Tinubu. Is it true? I said, oh, sorry, I didn't. I don't think it was an important part of the conversation. Does everybody get the point? Right? This is people that were next door neighbors. Now, we weren't wealthy, but it was important because my father probably realized that this Nigeria, who you know, is important to. Who you know. So he surrendered. And matter of fact, I was telling somebody I didn't know how important it was to my father till the day I wrote my final paper. You know that day you write the final paper and then they pour you water and pour you sand. If you went to Nigerian school or if you went to Harvard, you will not relate. When they pour you water, stone you. That water like this, I just ran, bought 100 Naira credits. You know, this was years ago, this was 2007, 2008. I bought my credits just to call Popsy, to tell Popsy, first thing I said on the phone, daddy, your last born is now a graduate. My dad said, praise the Lord. I said, so okay, I dropped the phone. The next morning, my father sent me a text. I said, well, I just got to work and I tendered my resignation. I said, damn. Does everybody get the point? He was waiting for me to graduate. I mean, God's been graceful to me. I've taken care of my dad in the last 10 years. I mean, we're renovating his house right now. And when I say we, it's a very humble way to say it. But what I'm saying is, that's something I know is the central ideology. Every other thing, even whether you think somebody is smart or not, still comes from. Because if you didn't grow up in a certain place, the same way you cannot grow up in the village and dream. Right? The kind of dream that Elon Musk dreams for SpaceX. If you never go NASA, National Aerospace Management, you cannot dream to go to Mars. See, there are people that if you still show them cloud today, they'll say that's where God lives, heaven. There are people that if you show them this cloud, they'll say that's where God lives. You know there are people in Nigeria that think that God lives in the cloud. If you have flown, you know that you have passed cloud is under you. You know that God, except God lives under you there. I don't know if. So what am I saying is, we're all a product of how we see things, and how we see things is a product of people around us. So who is around you? If you're the smartest guy in your room right now, please change your room. If you're the richest person in your circle, you need a new circle. Mafa, you don't need circle, you need square. Right? You can't be consistently inconsistent where you consistently want to be. Where you are is inconsistent where you consistently want to be. You want to be a billionaire. So what are you doing in a place where people are discussing that anybody that is a millionaire did blood money? What are you doing there? Do you want to do blood money? That thing, you know the people that think that any G-Wagon you see is politician money, stolen wealth. The people that think that anybody that lives in Ikoyi stole Nigerian money. It's a state of mind. So that somebody just blew, you just say, all great go. That's the state of mind. When you are in a circle where you've seen 24, 25-year-olds who have small, great idea, enter incubators and accelerators, VC comes in, sponsors them, and in 4 5 years, they are flutter with unicorn. Unicorn is any business that's worth $1 billion in capitalization. Would you now, if you've seen 20 boys in their 20s collect $1 billion, $1 billion, that thing is almost, if you give it to Nigeria right now, vaccine will go round. Vaccine will go round, plus extra money you can use to create vaccine for HIV itself. But what am I driving at is a game of our circle. And what's the key word? Still again, consistency. And let's go back consistently to the story we're telling about Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And the end of the story is the end of this session. Right? We get it, right? So this is the end of the story. So Warren Buffett, when Bill Gates' mom stands, says, okay, all of you play the game, write down one word that made you successful. Right? Right. So if you ask me, I'll probably have put network there because network probably made me successful. Just how I see things, people I saw, everything just looked very within reach. Right? Everybody wrote down these things that nobody saw what everybody wrote. And then she brought all of them, collated all of them, and put them in a big bowl. And then opened one after the other, 30 guys that didn't know themselves before that session. 30 of them, coincidentally, are all successful today. But more coincidentally, they all wrote the same thing. How did you guys become successful? And how are you going to become more successful in the future? They all wrote the same thing. Keyword. Guess what it was? Focus. That was the word. Focus. That is it. Focus. People don't stay long enough in anything. If it's not working now, it means that it can't work. That's how we live life. Focus. Ever since this was a few months ago, it changed my paradigm about anything. That this thing called focus. Matter of fact, focus creates blindness to other things that are irrelevant. There are things to me that is irrelevant. See, it's so deep that I have come to the conclusion that, look, except if it's somebody that's very tight to me. Today is Saturday. I'm standing here. I'm probably paid to be here. Saturday is my money making day. I cannot trade it to go and chop jollof rice in a wedding. My focus level have blinded. See, when you tell me that you are getting married, I'll say, oh, okay, well done, no problems. But let's see how it goes. In my mind, I know they come. Except if I'm the bride that you're carrying to the wedding. Except I'm the bride, I will not go. And guess what? I need to don't do wedding. I noticed that the only important person to the wedding is me and the bride. Any other person can do without. I will not go. You know what my math is? You know why I will not go? If I'm going to tell you you're going to pay 500K, I will come here. When you finish on Monday, I will not even call you to apologize. I will give you 1 week so that you have gone on honeymoon. And I know you're broke after wedding. 9 out of 10 people that marry are broke 1 week after. How I know? Me too, I don't marry, I don't broke. So I know. That time I know you're broke, I'll call you to apologize. And end it with, please send me your account number. See, the prayer they pray for me is more than the people that go there to go and eat jollof rice. Focus creates blindness. So I'm blinded by unnecessary things. Because life has too much waste. There's too much waste in life. See, life has too much waste that if you live for 70 years, you don't even know that you have not lived for 70 years. 70 years, not 70 years. You know how you know? This 70 years, convert it to months. Then convert it to weeks. Then convert it to days. Convert it to hours. Then divide it by 7. 1/7 of your life is a waste. You use it to sleep. First, you see how you to shrink. That 1/7, leave it. Remove another 1 hour for food, morning, afternoon, night. That's assuming you eat and get up. Some of us eat and gist. So you can stay like 2 hours. While you're even gisting, the booker will help your situation by turning it to premiership. You now stand up 45 minutes watching first half. Then, if God help you, Ikbeba is on Super Sport for halftime. You watch the analysis. Then you watch another. Before you know it, let's add all of them. Before you know, we'll move another, like, out of this 1/7, we'll start taking like another 2 hours for feeding. Then, gossip. The time you use to discuss Big Brother, Ronaldo and Messi, who is better? Jay-Z and Nas, who is better? Tupac and Biggie, who is greater? Beyonce or Rihanna, who is better? Toyota or Honda, which is better? By the time you feel that better, we'll take out another time. We'll realize that that's whatever you have left. You know what we'll do? It's a matching maths I use in one of my trainings. We will now convert it back to years. This is what maths is good. You now see that 70 years you think you live, what you actually live in life, you know the past 20 years. The rest is the waste. So after that 20, you still want to waste more by hanging around people. It's an absolute waste of time. Last word before I go, be intentional as those guys in the room. Anybody can fall off a ladder by accident. Nobody climbs a ladder by accident. Thank you and God bless you.
Okay. Thank you.